clicking. Well, welcome to School Days, Help for Moms and Dads of School-Age Kids. I'm Danita Bailey.
And I'm back.
Well, look who the cat jumped
Hey,
in.
how'd I get here? Shouldn't I be teaching a bunch of kids right now?
You should be.
Yeah,
yes.
but I'm not.
I'm thankful for your boss to let you off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Parms.
So how have you been?
Wow. Well,
How's school been going? I do know how you've been, since we're married and we live together.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm just getting back into the rhythm of things. Teaching finally the subjects that I love with the group of students I love to work with. And so teaching Algebra 1 and Geometry for middle school students, and doing the highs and lows of that and learning how to, I never had to plan 2 courses before at the same time, so just making adjustments there. I haven't taught middle schoolers in about 4 or 5 years, so just, all the things I forgot about are coming back. The challenges there, but it's been good, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we're going to grow these kids this year. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of you. You've had a lot of challenges.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's good though.
Well, not your own personal challenges, just well, never mind.
Okay.
You're not going to help me out at all. Huh?
Oh well, there's the highs and lows of. It's middle school and they're trying to hold on to the childhood, but. Trying to be grown, but they're not quite. It's a lot going on. So
yeah, every time I tell somebody my husband teaches middle school, they go.
Yeah, but what I like about it is, 7th and 8th grade, particularly 8th grade, is like the last year before they really mold into who they're going to be and the type of habits they're going to form. They're going to, the type of students they're going to be. They're going to be that, for the most part, through high school, and this is the last chance to kind of tweak them so that they're ready to have success, not just in high school, but getting ready for college and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's a good opportunity.
Yeah. Plus, I'm working them, and I don't do multiple choice in math, and so some are not too happy with me because I'm actually making them think and apply themselves, and not this multiple choice stuff. As I say, my 7-year-old daughter can bubble a letter doesn't mean you know what you're doing. Show me the math.
Show me the money.
Yeah, show me the money. Yeah. Show the math. And so, anyway, it's good. It's good.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm glad to have you back.
I'm good to be back.
Well, today's show is about adolescent dating violence, and the statistics are staggering. Let us read you a few of them. Roughly 1.5 million U.S. high school boys and girls admit to being hit or physically harmed in the last year by someone they were romantically involved with.
About 1 in 3 U.S. teens ages 14 to 20 have been victims of dating violence, and about the same number say they have committed relationship violence themselves. 43% of reported cases of dating violence occurred in a school building or on school grounds.
81% of parents believe teen dating violence is not an issue or admit they don't know if it's an issue. So you've been teaching for 11 years now. Have you had any experience with any students that you can recall?
Dating violence? Not that I know of.
Or control or pressure?
Well, at the middle school level, you see, the more of the effects of relationships than you do at, 6th grade level. I definitely see I see guys, date a girl a month, and, I don't know why they broke up so quickly. You definitely see girls that are burdened and, from a breakup, and, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but
you're also a male teacher, though, so you might not be somebody that they would confide in necessarily.
Oh, yeah. But, I see the effects of it on their ability to learn. Not knowing the full story, but, when something is happening, besides just the academics, it does have an impact on their ability to focus and have academic success. If you're just broke up with somebody and you're trying to focus on, my, algebra formulas or my geometry theorems, that's going to be kind of hard to do. So.
Yeah. Well, this is a very interesting topic, and I'm thankful that we have these guests here today because
Yes.
they have a lot of experience in it. But before we go any further, let me just say that it does take a village. If you hear a great parenting tip or nugget of advice, share it with your parent friends. Facebook it, Instagram it, tweet it, link it in, and add the hashtag School Days Show or hashtag I Am School Days. And also, we do want you to be a part of the show. So if you have any questions or comments, give us a call at 214-431-5062 or find us live on Facebook at Noggin, it's Noggin Foundation, and you can drop us a question there. So without further ado, let us introduce our guests. You can go first, Dave.
All right, so I'd like to introduce Tiphynee Salazar. She has been working as a school counselor and private therapist since 2012 and is a solution-based narrative counselor, believing that a problem behavior is not a fixed behavior and that change is possible. She is currently the lead counselor at Haltom High School in Birdville ISD. She has also been a high school counselor at Pascal, is that how you say it? Pascal High School in Fort Worth ISD, and has served the at-risk students at Everman Academy High School and Everman ISD. In private practice, she has worked with victims and perpetrators in violent relationships, as well as a wide variety of concerns with depression, anxiety, and mood disorders. She works with couples, families, and individuals to help them find their best self and highest level of functioning and satisfaction in the world. So thanks for being with us, Tiphynee. We're so glad you're here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And Stephanie Springer Threets has 7 years of experience as an elementary counselor and 13 years of experience as a high school counselor. She is currently a counselor at James Bowie High School at Arlington ISD. Ms. Threets holds a Bachelor of Science in English Education from Southern Arkansas University and a Master of Arts in School Counseling from Louisiana Tech University. She is a member of Leadership Arlington, a nonprofit organization whose mission is focused on the development of the next generation of community leaders. Ms. Threets is a certified clinical trauma practitioner and a trust-based relational intervention practitioner. That's a mouthful. Ms. Threets conducts an annual teen dating violence workshop at her school to educate students about healthy dating relationships. So thanks so much for joining us again, actually. This is your second time joining us.
Yes, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So we want to go ahead and jump right in. We do want to say that parental discretion is advised for this episode because we will be discussing some topics that might be a little bit too sensitive for little ears. So keep that in mind. So,
Okay, so what is dating violence? Let's start with the definition of that.
Well, it's a pattern of abuse. It's a pattern of abuse that usually occurs over a long time. The intent is usually to gain and maintain control over someone. And dating abuse occurs from the perspective of males and females. Both males and females can be perpetrators or victims.
Interesting.
so I was reading an article. I know that dating violence has to do with power, exerting power. Is it possible for it to be mutual? I've read that, some people kind of place the blame, or the blame is placed by the partner on themselves, like saying, you're abusing me too. Can there be mutual abuse?
Yes, I think that it is possible that both parties in a relationship are abusive to one another.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it in adult relationships as well as in teen relationships. I think it comes down to one person maybe exerting control and the other person isn't allowing it, and they're not afraid to fight back.
Mm-hmm.
I think it also happens that both parties are not mature enough to maybe recognize what healthy boundaries in a relationship are, and so they're both in that place where they want control and to be able to be the one that knows what's happening with the other one all the time. It comes from a place of insecurity.
Right.
So what are the different types of abuse that can occur in relationships?
We can have verbal, physical,
Emotional.
sexual. I think it usually starts with verbal and emotional abuse, and then it evolves over time.
Mm-hmm. What is there such thing as financial abuse, and what would that even look like?
Someone withholding your opportunities or trying to prevent you from getting a job. Someone withholding money from you for certain things. For example, a teen may not want their boyfriend or girlfriend to get a job, not only because that limits your finances, but also because you're away from me and I want you with me all the time. You know, so it's also an effort to isolate the victim.
Right.
And then in adult relationships, it's managing the money and the income so that you can control what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Mm-hmm. So what are the warning signs that you need to look for to kind of identify that somebody is experiencing dating violence?
Well, we've had students who have complained about someone constantly texting them all the time. Where are you? What are you doing? Who are you with? Someone who horseplays a lot, and that can be downplayed. The perpetrator may, hit someone, slap them, and then say, "Oh, I'm just playing around. Don't be so sensitive." Well, that's abusive, and that has to be taken seriously. And those are just a few of the many examples that someone needs to be on the lookout for. Controlling what you wear and how you dress. Sometimes that's seen as, oh, he or she cares about how I look. They want me to look my best. But that can be a red flag that's moving into, I want to control you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What other warning signs are there?
I think from an outsider's perspective looking in, if you're seeing changes in your child's normal behavior, if your child previously was gregarious and going out with friends and was active and involved at school and lighthearted and having fun, and you felt like it was just easygoing, and suddenly that starts to change and they become more withdrawn from their friendships, from their activities, even from their schoolwork, and even activities with the family, then that may be a sign that the relationship that they're in is problematic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What are some school-focused behaviors, things that you might see regarding academics or school attendance and things like that are going to be red flags?
High absenteeism, inability to focus and concentrate. Teachers may see aggressive behavior, increased irritability in the classroom. Those could also be signs that there's a troubled relationship going on. I mean, it could be signs of many things, but that's one of them, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons why dating violence can be overlooked, is because we look at certain things and we automatically attribute it to another problem. For example, a student may check out mentally and emotionally by putting his or her head on the desk. They may seem to a teacher to not be present in the classroom, kind of a dazed look. And that could be attributed to, oh, I think that they have attention deficit, or, oh, they're just not paying attention. But there could be something serious, emotional and mental that's going on with that child that could be the result of a problematic relationship.
Well, and those behaviors are always going to be a red flag that something's going on and you need to ask questions.
What about a schedule change request? Are they allowed to do that? And
well, sometimes,
Yes.
that could be a red flag. Most of the time we're not going to acknowledge that, and we're not going to give them that schedule change, especially if they're requesting. One thing I think that you have a good point is, if attendance becomes an issue and both parties of the relationship are in school together and they're both skipping classes at the same time, that's a sign. Like, okay, you used to go to class all the time, now suddenly you're not. There's something else going on, and it may not be abusive, but it is certainly not healthy.
Right.
That person is having the power over that other child to say, no, let's not go to class, let's go skip, let's go hang out at the stairs or wherever.
Yeah, so I know sometimes I'll have a student say, can I go to the bathroom, and they're just gone. I mean, for like 15 minutes, and I don't know, appropriate is this or not. I'll say, "What took you so long? Did you poop? I mean, what? I mean, why are you gone so long? I mean, come for 15 minutes. You have some issues there." And so I do see, when you hear about, we have, hear about, well, a student goes out, then I'll be told later or something that the students roaming the hallways, or they're hanging out with a girl, or notifications that, hey, you got to watch out because it's hanging out by the bathroom area. So stuff happens, or rooms that are unattended. There's so many different nooks and crannies within schools that kids can sneak into, and Lord knows what's happening there. So I'm experiencing it, firsthand, like right now.
Mm-hmm.
Not right now, but right now.
In the present.
Right. Yes.
Are there certain groups of kids that are more at risk for dating violence?
I did some research into that, thinking, okay, there must be some. And there are some situations, if there's a family history of abusive relationships, there may be some predisposal to that. But honestly, anybody is at risk of possibly being an abuser and of being in a situation where they're abused.
Kids that identify as LGBTQ or LG, did I get that right? LGBT, are they possibly more at risk?
I don't think that that's necessarily makes it a high risk factor at all. Dating violence occurs along all lines of culture, socioeconomic statuses, and I think it's important to stay away from stereotyping it to a certain culture and group and all of that. So no, I don't think so. Of course, we know that girls, there's a higher percentage of girls who report being abused over boys, but even with our males, we can neglect that they can be abused as well, and often are, but because of how we view males in society, they don't always receive the help that they need.
And as adults, we have it in our head that abuse is physical or sexual. We don't spend a lot of time thinking that for our teenagers, yes, there is physical and sexual abuse that occurs, but more often it's going to be that verbal and emotional abuse.
Right.
And the kids aren't even thinking that they're being abusive. They think, I love you. I want to know where you are. I love you. I care about what you look like. I love you. I want you to spend all your time with me. And that goes girl to boy, boy to girl, girl to girl, boy to boy. That idea, because they see it in their parents, well, that my parents spend all their time together, so that's what relationships are supposed to be. They aren't thinking that I'm cutting in on the rights of that other person to do their own thing.
Right.
And that leads to more and more control, or the need for more and more control. And then it gets into a place where now we're also introducing the possibility of anger when the other person doesn't do what they want, or insecurity because you didn't answer my text right away. Normally you answer my text right away. Our kids are getting into relationships younger and younger and younger,
Yeah, they are
ill-equipped.
Yes.
And so as a response, they go to the control area as opposed to being taught proper and healthy boundaries about relationships.
And how to manage emotions.
Yes.
There's already a lot going on. Just their bodies are changing, and just they're not fully developed yet, and it's hard enough as an adult, to manage our emotions. I know you talked about the financial side real quick. Is there abuse where maybe from a socioeconomic status, like maybe one person comes from a wealthier background than maybe the person they're dating, and kind of maybe holding that over their head? Or have you ever seen or experienced anything like that in your experience? Like maybe one person's parents are rich and the other person's parents are not, or maybe one has two parents and one comes from a single parent home, and kind of weighing that against the other person. Have you ever seen that before?
I haven't, but whatever means someone uses, it all resorts back to I need to control you. So they're going to manipulate and use whatever means is available to them. So I don't see that not happening, but I haven't had that in my experience.
Yeah.
So this is a term that I came across I actually never heard of before, gaslighting. What is that, and what are kind of some of the techniques in that?
Psychological abuse. So someone who gaslights is basically twisting the other person around mentally and emotionally to make them doubt themselves. Why are you being so sensitive? Or that wasn't a big deal. I didn't do that.
I
You're
hate
crazy.
when you do this. I hate when you do that.
And so the other person starts to really doubt themselves and doubt their own sanity, and that's what the abuser is trying to accomplish. As long as the abuser can weaken the other person, well, that strengthens the abuser. The maintaining of that control and power grows more and more and more. The victim is less likely to leave the abuser because now he or she has a dependence on him because something is wrong with me.
Nobody else would love me.
Right. And so it's very manipulative emotionally.
It's writing a negative narrative of that other person, and so to the point where it is so repetitive and so constant and so niggling. It's not even specific things. It's just this little niggling, constant thing that, like you said, creates this psychological inferiority in the other person that they don't know if they're coming or going. Their reality, it literally happens over such a long period of time that the reality of what they believe to be true about themselves changes
Wow.
over time.
And the point of it is to confuse them into thinking that they're not being abused, that somebody is not doing the things that they're doing.
Well, that they're not emotionally, mentally stable. So they're questioning their own sanity.
That they're not worthwhile. And I think when it starts, I don't know that we could say this abuser for sure knows what they're doing. I think it starts as a way of, reflecting responsibility to a situation where she's mad at me and now I need to respond and go on the attack, and then on the attack, and then on the attack. And what it does is they learn that now my partner backs away, and I'm no longer the one on the attack. Well, if I keep that attack going, she's going to continue to step back, and then I don't ever have to worry about there being a conflict as long as I keep at this. I don't know that they're like, how could I go about gaslighting another person?
Right.
I think it starts out very simply, and then it just grows and
they learn that it works.
Yes.
Yeah, it works for them.
Wow. So what is electronic dating violence?
That we see a ton of.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like cyberbullying, but between dating partners or ex-dating partners.
Yeah.
And what are some examples of that?
So I mentioned earlier the constant texting, stalking via social media, posting things on social media that are unwelcome or not consensual. All of those are examples of dating violence through social media and electronic means.
It's a couple getting into a fight and one of them going to a social media source and saying, I just hate her. She is so ugly. I don't even know why I'm going out with her all the time. And then that gets torn down. So somebody else jumps on and sees that post, and then they add to it. And then it becomes this flamed fire because now there's an audience to the fight. And the other party spends time trying to, I'm sorry, please take it down, delete it. Well, I'll delete it, but you can never do that again.
So the whole relationship is played out over social media. Yeah.
And also it can be taking pictures of the partner that would have been private, but then or even blackmailing them to say, I'm gonna put these online or I'm gonna text these to people.
Yeah. If you break up with me, all those pictures you sent me, I'm putting them online.
So what exactly is sexual assault? Can you define that for us?
It's any kind of unwanted sexual contact. Anything that is not consensual, anything of a sexual nature. It doesn't have to be just intercourse. It can be any kind of touching of the sexual organs in any way, shape, or form that's unwanted.
That's good to note. It does not have to be penetration. Right. Is statutory rape sexual assault?
Yes.
Okay. So define what statutory rape is exactly?
Well, so statutory rape in the state of Texas, the age of consent is 17. And so if two people are having intercourse and one is under the age of 17 and the other is 3 years or more older, that's statutory rape.
Well, and that could be 16 to 17 or 18, 16 to 18. We could have there's only a 2-year age gap, but that one person's 18 and the other person's under 17. That under 17 cannot consent, even if it's consensual.
Mhm.
And they
Wow.
both want to be having sex.
Right.
That age gap means you cannot.
That's
And I warn, and I have grown children now, but I told my kids. I
You
said,
do?
I do. I have a
Wow.
22-year-old.
Right.
Who would
I know,
have
I had
thought
to
it?
pause
Yeah.
like, really?
Yeah. I've got a college grad.
Grown, wow.
But
As
I
good
told
genes.
my boys, I said, do not date a girl that's younger than you. Even if you aren't having sex, if the breakup happens and she's mad, she could accuse you and it would be your word against hers. Do not date somebody underage. And the rules have changed every few years. It used to be there was a 1-year age limit, so if they were both under 17, it could be 1 year. Then there was a 3-year rule. It's just best.
Mhm.
You told your boys to go after those cougars, huh?
No, that is dangerous. No.
Well, I'm saying is someone older. I'm saying not younger. Not like 20 years. I mean, like 2 years older.
2 years older.
Yeah.
Well, they just
Seriously?
have to be conscientious of age. Our kids must be conscientious
Yeah.
of the age of their girlfriend or boyfriend because it could have legal implications. I've seen it in
Right.
schools.
Right,
You
yes.
know,
And the state just says that, and they don't have the emotional maturity to make that decision to engage in intercourse. They don't. And that's one of the reasons I think that we see dating violence is because teenagers just lack the emotional maturity to know how to communicate effectively, to make good choices and good decisions. And then dating violence kind of stems from all of their own emotional immaturity.
We are talking to Tiphynee Salazar and Stephanie Springer Threets, and they're both high school counselors, and they're answering your questions if you have any about teen and adolescent dating violence. If you would like to chime in or ask some questions, our phone number is 214-431-5062.
So what can and should we expect from the school if abuse is reported to have happened on school grounds, and what should we expect regarding safety from the abuser?
Well, we'll first investigate. Our counselors want to make sure that the students are okay. We also want to get help for the abuser. The AP assistant principal will investigate. We have security officers on campus as well to investigate and then proceed to what may be the next step in punishment and consequences.
What are those different levels of consequence that could occur if something does occur on
Students
campuses?
can be sent to alternative placement, whether that's alternative placement on campus or off campus. Charges can be pressed as well. We will do a schedule change often because we don't want anyone to feel threatened within the classroom. So after we investigate, we've done schedule changes before as well.
So can you tell us what Title
9.
9 is and how that impacts teen dating violence in schools?
well, that's a complicated one, right? So
Oh.
Title IX is that we cannot discriminate. So for instance, we have two parties in a relationship. One feels that they've been harassed, sexually stalked, something like that, and then the other party is the perpetrator, and they say, well, you can't prove anything. I haven't done anything. Well, we need to have some consequences. This child's saying you're stalking. Well, no, you can't. So it gets sticky because some schools are like, well, we'll just move your placement. You can be at another campus. That could be considered discrimination. And that's what Title IX is protecting against, is that we can't discriminate. We have to provide educational services for all students, no matter what. And without, legal charges being brought against, that we have proof of this is what's happening and charges are being filed with the state, we can't make a placement change just because it's one child is accusing another of abuse.
What are the rights that are allowed under Title IX?
Well,
Again, everybody gets equal opportunity to education. So what a school would say that they require
Yes.
is if a person says, this person has sexually abused me, I have filed charges for sexual assault, we're gonna contact a police officer within our campus, most likely, and they're gonna pull the charges, and then with those charges, and we can see how the state is responding, we can make a recommendation for response at that point. We can't always just put a kid, like a parent wants us, that kid needs to be in DAP, that alternative disciplinary placement center, right? That kid needs to be sent off school, they need to be expelled. We can't do that. We cannot not educate a kid. And that's a difficult thing for parents to accept. Like, well, my child's been victimized. It shouldn't have to be that my kid has to go to school with that child. But sometimes that is the case. The law limits us in what we are able to do without charges being filed and a conviction being found.
And then a thorough investigation, as well. Thorough investigation. So there have been times when even if charges have not been filed, schools, we still have to take appropriate measures to make sure that the students feel safe within the school as well. So I know in Arlington ISD, we now have a system that assesses all levels of threats in order to make sure that our students do feel safe and that we do take appropriate measures to ensure safety. And sometimes, charges aren't filed, but we still put things in place to help students.
So I think the key is due process.
Yes.
And documentation of everything and all of our interventions to ensure safety for everybody and rights for everybody.
And I think that also leads into if a student is being abused, keep documentation. We have students to show us texts, pictures, conversations back and forth. Those things are really, really important when we're investigating.
And that's vital in order to assign any kind of disciplinary intervention.
Yes.
Because we have to have proof to what's happened.
Yes.
Right.
Is there any recourse if there's like false accusations? Has that ever happened where someone's just lying? Maybe they broke up with them and they want to, spite or revenge. Is there any recourse on that end?
Well, we always we have had that happen. We get parents involved, of course. We get the assistant principals involved, and we talk to the students as well about the actions that they've taken. So we take that seriously.
So what are questions I can ask to probe if I'm concerned that my child is in an abusive relationship?
Keep the lines of communication open, definitely, and don't move into making it about the abuser. You want to let your child know that I'm concerned for your safety. You may even probe in maybe hypotheticals. What do you think about a guy who's texting you in the middle of the night all the time? Or what would you do if you were in a relationship and your boyfriend or girlfriend wanted to spend all of their time just with you and you didn't get to see your friends as much? What do you think about stuff like that? So maybe probing in a very non-threatening way just to get your child's opinion, thought, and to see where their head is on those issues would be really helpful. But you don't want to make your child feel guilty because they'll shut down. You don't want to make them feel less than because they won't come to you, and keep those lines of communication open.
I think the narrative has to start really early with our kids. Kids start talking to people in elementary school.
Right.
And so we need to be teaching our kids, starting in elementary school, what appropriate relationships at that age look like, and how it looks when they're in middle school, and what it looks like when they're in high school. How should your partner be treating you? What is acceptable behavior and what is not? That has to be taught. The same way we teach our kids how to read in preschool, we have to teach our kids how to be in healthy relationships. And that is really defining, because the only thing that they're learning from is what they see in front of them, and a marriage is not what dating should look like. And so we have to distinguish that, yes, your mom and I, we spend all our time together, but we're married. We didn't always spend all our time together. When we were dating in high school, we each did different things. They did football and I had band, and we have to let them know that it's okay and it's healthy to not spend every minute together, and you don't have to text in 5 minutes. We have to teach them those things, and that strengthens them, gives them confidence, and they know what to look for in a great partner.
And teaching them that love is not abuse is really huge. I think that's a huge problem, is that if I am being if he or she cares about me so much that they care about what I'm wearing, where I'm going, who I'm with, and they want to be with me all the time, they must really, really love me. You know, they just love me so much, but that's not love. And so parents need to help their children define what love is and what love looks like, because love is not abuse.
Yeah. Love is not unkind words. Love is not anger that causes them to push and shove you. Love is not cutting them down.
Right.
And it's not okay for them to come back and apologize. Say, I'm sorry, I just got so mad. That's not okay. That's not love either.
Right.
And that's not how people who love each other treat one another. And we've got to teach our kids that. You're exactly right.
So tell us, what are some of the steps we can take if our child has been a victim of abuse?
Speak to the counselor. Depending on what has gone on, definitely get authorities involved. Talk to the authorities on campus as well. You need to have people aware of what's going on. For example, if you have a daughter or boyfriend, a daughter or a son whose boyfriend or girlfriend is coming to the house, well, neighbors kind of need to be aware maybe of what's going on. They can keep a watchful eye out. You may need to change your child's cell phone number, for example. We talk to kids about in keeping safe at school, maybe even changing their normal route that they take to and from class, for example. But the first key is letting people know what's going on so that you can get help. And as counselors, we're also going to refer you to the appropriate services so you can get help even outside of the school.
And I think that's the key. Parents need to understand, school counselors, we are good at immediate intervention. And we may work with your kid for a long period of time, but we are not providing therapy. If a child has been in an abusive situation, either as the victim or as the perpetrator, because remember, they're kids. This is not a fixed behavior. Just because they were being abusive or have been abused does not mean that that needs to be what is always their reality. But we have to get them real counseling services that is not going to be 1 or 2 sessions, because we have to change the way they're thinking about relationships and about their own behavior.
Right, because statistics say that if a child has been a victim of abuse as a teen or a preteen, there's a good likelihood that they're going to also carry that into adulthood and find another relationship where they're abused.
Yeah, if we don't address
Without
it.
intervention.
Without intervention.
Right.
Exactly.
So, because of fear and psychological abuse, it can be a delicate balance convincing them that they need to leave. What advice do you give to parents regarding just how to approach that with their child and their expectations?
I think you've got to have open-ended conversation and open-ended questions. It can't be that the parent is telling them, you've got to get out of this relationship. You've got to figure out how to have this conversation so that it becomes the child's idea. They need to come to this realization themselves that this is not a healthy relationship. This is not what I want for myself. This is not how I want my love life to look. If they can come to that realization, then the parent can help lay out the steps for exiting. But it really needs to be open conversation so that the child can come to the realization that this isn't what I want.
This isn't okay. I'm not okay, and I want to be better.
What are some of the reasons that teens stay in dating relationships that are abusive?
Teens can deal with their own depression. You know, if I'm already coming into a relationship and I am insecure and I, hook up with someone who is controlling me, that person gains that power over me. Drugs and alcohol can play a role in dating violence as well. Kids start experimenting really early now. So there are a lot of different factors. I think one of the things that I run into a lot, and last year we had a workshop at my campus, and we had 2 speakers to come in, an NFL player and a track Olympian, who came in and spoke to kids, because kids misinterpret what love is. And we just mentioned that a while ago. Misinterpreting how love should look and how love should feel. And so they end up staying in relationships and not reporting the abuse also because they are uneducated about what abuse is. And I think we mentioned that earlier. Constantly stalking someone, to some, is seen as he or she just wants to be with me all the time. They don't recognize that that's a red flag. Parents often don't recognize what the red flags are either.
I think that there's a lot of social pressure for kids to have a boyfriend or girlfriend. My friends all have a boyfriend. I want a boyfriend. And it starts out so discreetly, you know, just a little bit of, well, I just want to know where you are. I just want you to text me. I like to see you between every single class because I just love you so much. And so it evolves so gradually, and that control grows and grows and grows. And then before you know it, you've angered them because you didn't answer your text quick enough. And you've always, so you must be cheating on me. Now I'm angry. Now I'm going to push and shove you. And oh my gosh, what just happened? Oh, but I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. And now you've been dating for months and months, right? And yes, there were little things, but for months and months it seemed really great. And we had one little incident, and by now I love you. I don't want to leave. And that's a hard thing to overcome.
And also, you know, I remember one girl saying that a boy told her, you know, no one else is going to want you. No one else is going to want you. You know, everyone knows that it's us. You and I are the item, you know, so that becomes a popularity thing, that if she felt like if I break up with him, no one else is going to date me anyway.
Or I'm not going to let anybody date you. You know, that control is saying, if you break up with me, no one else will date you because I will make sure nobody else wants to date you.
Wow.
For parents that are, you know, listening to this and maybe have younger kids like preteen, how young have you seen this happen?
Middle school.
Yes, I haven't seen it in middle school. I worked with 8th graders many years ago, and I didn't see it then, but I have no trouble believing that, yes, it starts early, you know, as young as 11, 12 years old.
Yeah, 8th grade, I've seen kids that they don't know that that's what they're doing, but that is what they're doing. The level of control that they want to have over their partner, that's these early stages of dating violence.
And so don't you think it needs to be more of knowing parents and, you know, family members talking to kids about what do I do with all of these strong emotions, you know, because yes, they fall in love. What do I do with all these? I do want to be with him or her all of the time. And so they need to recognize when those boundaries are crossed. You know, when I decide to not be with you for something, it's not okay. Like you said, that you holler at me, you scream at me, or you text me all hours of the night, or when I ask you to stop doing something, you know, that person should always respect your decisions.
Yeah, and I think when you get to that age, late elementary, middle school, the conversation needs to start happening between parents and their kids. What it will look like. If a girl starts talking about the crushes she has in school, well, what would it look like if you had a boyfriend? Have them define what they think the relationship needs to look like. So they already have an idea in their head. And when something veers from what that idea is that you guys worked out together, wait a second, that's not what I wanted.
Talk about it.
Talk about it. It has to be said in advance.
And it's not okay to just tell our children, just focus on school. Just focus on school. Just focus on school. All you need to do right now is focus on school. You know, they do need to focus on school, but the reality is that their school lives involve so much more.
Right.
And they need to be equipped with the skills in order to handle things socially. And if no one is talking about them, they don't have the skills.
They need to be equipped with them because they're going to eventually leave your house.
Yes,
and they need to be able to have healthy relationships, know what healthy relationships look like when they get in college and beyond that. Yeah,
and they need to recognize, and this is a conversation, it's okay to talk to your kids about the science of what's happening in their bodies.
Yes.
And those hormone levels, that is a serious and real thing. And sometimes those hormone levels is what's driving them to want to be in a relationship, is what's driving them to do sexual things before they're ready. And we need to have open conversation about those. Those feelings are normal. They're driven for a purpose in your body, but we think that you need to be of a certain age before you can start really embarking upon indulging them.
Right.
You know? Because the kids need to understand, because otherwise they're just, if nobody talks to them about it, they're going to let nature lead.
Right.
And that's going to lead to problems.
Right.
You know, I know I feel as a teacher kind of locked down on what I can say. I mean, I've had kids just a couple weeks ago say, Mr. Play, what's sperm? I'm like,
How did that come into a math conversation?
I don't know. Some kid made some off comment, and I mean, and they were sincere. Like, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you know, and I'm trying to teach a math lesson here, and I just found a way to kind of dance around that. So you have to have a conversation with someone else about that, you know. But I mean,
it's not a terrible answer, you know.
Right. You know, but you know, as teachers, I mean, you have kids. You know, if they're not getting that at home, they're not getting that perspective at home. It's hard. And then as a teacher, we're driven by data and test scores and all those things. But I see what I see. You know, I know when kids are going through stuff, and it does impact learning. It has an impact on their scores, you know, and so I'm trying to find that balance, and, you know, I can't say, well, you know, they just broke up with their girlfriend, and so that's why the scores are low today, you know, so, you know, but it's real, you know, it's real, and I'm seeing it, especially now that I'm back up in middle school. I see the effects of it on kids, and you can see how life does impact their ability to learn and focus.
Mm-hmm. And you do, as a teacher, you do have to tread carefully and cautiously. I would say always, when there are concerns, you know, question the student. You know, ask the student, inquire because you care. And also always reach out to the parent. Our students will grow and get better through building of relationships, whether that's relationships with parents, if that's absent, relationships with teachers, trusted adults, coaches, for example, have great relationships with students as well. And so always reach out to the parents and find ways to incorporate social, emotional learning within the curriculum, because that's out there. That's out there as well. And that's one way you can accomplish some of those social goals.
But it is hard. There are some topics that we can do that with, but then there's others. When a student comes in and asks the math teacher what sperm is, that answer is hard.
Stay away from that one.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not a science teacher. Maybe you should talk to the science teacher. Or, you know what? I can also, I can get somebody to talk to you about that. Would that be helpful for you? Because I absolutely think that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's not my content area. You can make it, you know, some live, like, I don't know about science. I only know about numbers. You can be silly.
Right.
Right? And then email the counselor and the parent and say, hey, your child asked about blah, blah, blah today. And the counselor's good because the counselor can intervene. A counselor can have a conversation with a kid that a teacher can't have.
Right.
And that's okay. But I as a counselor, I always want to look after my teachers. I don't want you to dig yourself a hole.
Right.
By answer a question, you're like, oh, that could be dangerous.
Right. They're not gonna flip out their phone on me and catch me saying something crazy.
Exactly.
No. They do it.
Good looking out. Yes. I do want to ask a couple more questions. We don't have a whole lot more time. I want to ask a couple more questions about involving the police. So, one question is, if my child is a minor and has experienced abuse and does not want to press charges, can the parent press charges?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. That's good to know. And then
parents have all rights to their kids.
Yeah.
No matter what, parents, if that child's a minor, the parents have all of the decision-making rights for everything.
Yeah. Okay. You know, because the child may be like, oh, but I love him, and he didn't really do, you know,
I wanted
that
to
much.
do it.
And yeah, that's good. And if you have to call the police, what are some important things to remember and to be prepared with?
I guess if you're reporting abuse, you need the abuser's name and as much information as you can provide. The facts about what happened. So here's where, when it comes to sexual assault, as abuse goes, we do not question kids. And I think that's a key component in this. If your child comes to you and says, I was raped, or I had sex with my boyfriend, but I didn't really want to, or I had sex with my girlfriend, I didn't really want to, and I'm confused about it, or whatever the case may be. The conversation really should stop there, and the police should be notified, because a forensic investigator is going to come in. What we believe about trauma, and you can back this up, is the more often that we tell that story, we are re-traumatizing. And a parent is emotional, they're not going to know the questions to ask. A police officer, a regular police officer, should not be asking those questions. So protect your child. You need to wait until that forensic investigator gets there, and they are the only one that should be asking the details of the incident for the purpose of this investigation.
So you're saying not a regular police officer?
Not a regular police officer, a forensic police officer. If a regular police officer starts asking those questions, you as the parent, cut them off. No, I'm going to wait till the forensic investigator gets here.
Wow.
I do not want my child to be re-traumatized by having to tell the story over and over and over again.
That is so good. And so do you just have to ask, are you a forensic investigator, or because how would you know?
Yes, well, and
yeah, ask the question. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, ask the question.
Okay, because maybe they send one instead of just sending a regular police officer.
usually
Or do they
a
have both?
police officer is going to respond because they're going to want to, I mean, they've got to secure whatever. The forensic team always takes a longer time to get there. We had an incident at school last year, and a child sat for 6 hours waiting for a forensic investigator to show up, which is unacceptable.
Yeah.
But
Oh my goodness.
we keep them in a secure place, but it's that's stressful, right? That's not what we want. And so as a parent, you've got to be an advocate for your child to say, hey, this isn't, I don't want to spend our whole day doing this.
Right.
Can we get that person here sooner? You know, but they're busy too. As the statistics show, what was it, every 73 seconds in the nation, there is some kind of sexual or physical abuse that occurs.
Wow.
One of the things you mentioned earlier on is to make sure you keep texts and any pictures or anything regarding any physical abuse. So keep kind of a journal of those things, or just make sure you don't erase anything so that they can be used as evidence and proof that that the abuse was occurring.
Yes.
Yeah, most of the time what we see are friends that come in for their friend. They got a string of text messages that they're concerned about, and they're the ones that save this text conversation, and they're the ones that will tell us. And so sometimes those friends are good, they're the person holding the evidence in some cases. We hate to turn them into witnesses, but
Right. But, you know, I can say more often than not, I've had more of the victims to still hold on to those things. You know, part of that I think is human nature, in that it's like, you know, we have to educate our students on staying off of social media sometimes when negative stuff is constantly posted about them, and human nature keeps going back to it, right? And reading and going back to it. And so oftentimes I see that kids hold on to all of those things, which is good. But I would also caution about constantly revisiting it as well.
Just in the last couple of minutes that we have, talk to us about what are some of the hallmarks of a good, healthy relationship, the things that we need to be conveying to our kids.
You know, if I want to hang out with my friends, my boyfriend or girlfriend is okay with that. You know, my boyfriend or girlfriend does not try to make me feel guilty. And my boyfriend or girlfriend has their own friends as well. So we have healthy space, you know. If we're having a disagreement and I want to walk away from what is turning into an argument, my boyfriend or girlfriend respects that and does not try to block me from leaving a room or try to grab me. You know, my boyfriend respects my my body as well and does not try to coerce or force me into anything sexual that I don't want to be a part of. And my boyfriend or girlfriend is also happy when I make achievements. You know, there are a lot of relationships where when one person is starting to soar, you know, jealousy kind of shows its ugly head, and that person doesn't like that because you're gaining independence from me. But in a healthy relationship, I want you to be successful.
Those are good.
I think in a healthy relationship too, yes, you're going to see this boyfriend or girlfriend. They're going to want to hang out at your house on weekends, you know, but your child respects whatever boundaries you put down. Okay, but not on Sundays. Sundays are family day, whatever that case may be. And there's no fight, there's no argument. It's looking at your kid and not seeing a ton of behavioral changes. If your child was never really, married to their phone, and now they're in a relationship and they're still not married to the phone, that's a good thing, right?
Right.
When your kid is still doing all the same things that they were always doing at the same time intervals, and now the only real addition is that you've got this kid that comes over to your house on Tuesday afternoons for 2 hours, that's okay. They're also going to respect when you say, you know what, okay, it's time to go home. Okay, see you later, bye. I think that's the key is knowing that both parties in the relationship are respecting whatever rules the parents have. And I think it's an important thing for parents to know the parents of the person that your child is dating.
That's so good.
You need to have some kind of contact with one another. Share text or phone numbers, have a conversation, but you need to be in contact.
That's
and that's
good.
just true for friends as well.
Sure.
These days when your child is hanging out with other kids, you need to know who they are and who the parents are as well. And keep your children involved in positive activities, whatever those positive activities are. And this is, for younger children, even prior to dating, because that creates a different type of connectedness with other adults and other kids. And so that builds self-confidence in kids as well.
Yeah, if your kid comes back and they've got a new girlfriend, they're like, I want to drop out of wrestling. What? You love wrestling. You've been wrestling for 3 years. Tell me what's going on. What's making you decide you want to do that? It's a conversation to have. Does it mean that there's something going on? Not necessarily, but it is an early red flag that needs to be discussed.
So, what resources or online hotlines or organizations, are available to help abused adolescents?
Loveisrespect.org is a good one. The Women's Center in Arlington is a great resource. We have them come out. They have a program called Play It Safe, and a lot of the schools in Arlington use them. Our health teacher has them come. Our teacher who deals with our students who will one day be teachers has those presentations, and they talk about healthy dating relationships. They talk about sexual abuse as well.
Yeah, Play It Safe is in most of the school districts: Everman, Fort Worth, Birdville, Arlington, Mansfield. They go out to all the schools, starting in elementary school, talking about healthy relationships. And don't let the Women's Center name fool you. They serve all relationships, no matter what the gender is. If someone is claiming abuse, they are there to help, and they provide individual counseling, family counseling, as well as resources.
Any more online? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Any more online resources? Loveisrespect.org is great, and actually that's where I went to get most of my research for this episode. They have articles and all sorts of information about healthy dating relationships and signs to look for and things like that. So that's a great one. Anything else?
I would just mention, I think it's 1-800-273-TALK, and I mentioned that one because victims from dating violence are often at a higher risk of being suicidal as well. And so anyone who's struggling with those feelings, that is also a good resource, as well as, of course, your counselors, parents. But 1-800-273-TALK is a resource.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. This was a wonderful show, chock full of great information that I know is going to be really helpful.
Thank you guys so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
So, School Days is sponsored by
All right, so I don't know, right before I left, I mentioned that we still provide face-to-face coaching, but now we do virtual coaching as well, so we can work with anyone anywhere literally in the world who has access to a computer, and we can do everything such as screen sharing and sharing websites and solving problems, everything online. And the added bonus of that is that we can also record it and then send it to our families and the students so they can go back and rewind in a way that they couldn't before as well. As your child is considering colleges and test prep, not going to here to serve you. Want to help you learn how to be a test taker. There is an art to test taking. And knowing content is good, but also you have to know how to get to it in a way that's going to be efficient as well. And Noggin can help with that as well. So if you want to find out more information, you can email me at david@noggineducation.com or go to noggineducation.com.
All right, thanks. And if you happen to be in the DFW area, now I'm starting to sound raspy. The change in the weather is getting us.
Yeah.
Yesterday was cold. Wasn't it yesterday or 2 days ago? It was like 30 degrees.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be 80 degrees. So anyway, I digress. If you happen to be in the DFW area and would like to lend us a hand with Noggin Educational Foundation, we would love for you guys to join us. We're in the process of getting a jump on organizing our activities for the Summer Math and Reading program. And we also welcome students who need some volunteer hours before the semester is over. So drop me a line at Doneda, that's DONEDA, at nogginfoundation.org. And whether you're in the DFW area or not, there are plenty of ways to help us by donating your time. Head to BeTheLight.life and explore all the ways you can volunteer with Noggin Educational Foundation.
And I'll be back. I'm sorry, wrong part of the card.
So next week.
Well, it's in bold. So anyway.
Okay.
All right. So next week on School Days, we will sit down with a high school ELAR teacher, Michelle Agbadewu, and writer professor LaQuisha Beckman to discuss helping your child develop strong writing skills. And since I'm on break next week, I'll be back to get back in the chair again as well. So I'm excited to be back for a little while longer.
So don't forget to share about the next episode with your. I'm judging you just a little bit.
You know what? I can tell you something. All right, go on.
Don't forget to share about next week's show with your parent friends. And as always, head to schooldayshow.com for more information about all that we're doing and all the resources that we've mentioned on School Days. And remember, you don't ever have to miss a show. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, and pretty much anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Noggin Foundation. That's NOGGIN. And last but not least, we always want to end this show by saying that David and I are parenting by grace. We depend on God to give us the strength and the wisdom that we need to help our kids to grow into flourishing adults. And if you'd like to know more about that, email us at schooldayshow.com. Have a great week.